Hi, I'm Dr. Sonny Dhanani. I'm a pediatric intensivist at the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario in Ottawa, Canada. I've been a pediatric intensivist for almost 20 years and involved with organ and tissue donation over those years here in Ontario and nationally. And part of my growth was to develop a research platform. What was really important for me as a researcher was looking at donation and transplant not as a practice that was something important and good to do for my patients, but in fact built on science. And the reason we wanted to build donation practice based on science, it's all about trust. I was very fortunate to lead a very unique study called the DPART study, which looked at death in the ICU, how individuals died in the ICU, and looked at predicting time to death after withdrawal of life-sustaining therapy, and also tried to look at the physiology of the dying process, of when circulation stopped, so that donation would occur in a timely fashion. For us, the fundamental principle is that for organ donation, deceased organ donation, the recovery of organ occurs after death has occurred. Some questioned whether the process of donation interfered with that dying process, and in fact, whether the donation process occurred before death had actually been occurred. We were very fortunate in that we studied an area of life and death that was hard to study, but people bought into it. Can you imagine going to families and asking them, we know your loved one's passing away. They may or may not have been potential for a donation, but we wanted to explore and watch their loved one die. Very sensitive topic. In fact, individuals were really worried that it couldn't be done. At the end, we had 20 sites enrolled. We had 3 countries enrolled, and we enrolled over 600 patients. We had patient family partners join us that guided us through this experience. And we eventually published the study, the landmark study in the New England Journal of Medicine, where we actually found that the classic flat line that you might see on TV, where death occurs and there was just a flat line and then maybe organ donation occurred, actually was not so straightforward. That consistently, about 14% of the time, the heart stops and starts before finally coming to that flat line. This was so important for us to document because, in fact, anecdotally, we had heard this from ICU physicians. We'd seen it in media coverage and we'd seen it on TV. So we wanted to make sure that we documented this. And so after that publication, again, we were very fortunate in that this information has already been incorporated into new guidelines that were released this past month in the Canadian Journal of Anesthesia, published by Canadian Blood Services, partnered with many groups, including CDTRP. And we've honed the guidelines based on actual evidence. So the science of organ donation has now come right back into practice very quickly. Where now we confirm circulatory death after waiting for 5 minutes. We use very specific monitoring, like an arterial blood pressure line, during that process to make sure we see the heart and circulation starting and stopping, and that we wait with confirming by 2 physicians that circulation is stopped before any organ donation carries on. We're hoping with these new guidelines and the science behind it that we've developed trust. I think, again, I feel very lucky to be part of this study, and I'm very thankful for the team, the patient partners who were involved, and also the families that consented to this research being done. did CDTRP support us here? You know, the DPART study was an amazing, impressive, sensitive area of research. One that, as I mentioned, nobody was really interested in doing. There was a lot of resistance, even though we recognized the impact of such knowledge would quickly develop trust in our system. It's the CDTRP. In fact, before, right at the beginning, it was the CNTRP, the Canadian National Transplant Research Program, that believed in us. We were one of the first projects to be incorporated and one of the first projects to start after initial funding to move forward. The CDTRP helped us link researchers across the country and internationally. The CDTRP helped with their infrastructure to support us in working out contracts, developing relationships with hospitals and other researchers. They also gave us a platform to connect with patient partners, which was really a developing area of research, seems normal now. And they helped us with knowledge translation. After the study was published, how did we connect with patients, families, organ donation organizations, the research community, and the general public? Really novel things. And one of the biggest things and the proudest thing I'd mention with my relationship with CDTRP is the Canadian National Transplant Research Program. Because of our donation studies and many that followed, that the D was incorporated in CDTRP, the Canadian Donation Transplant Research Program, because we recognized that the science of donation was just as important as the science of transplantation. So we've come a full journey together, the DPART study, myself, and the CDTRP in the first 10 years. And we're really excited about the next 10 years.